Hello and welcome to episode 67 of the Madaxeman podcast. The whole team are, of course, back again. We're dialing in from our COVID-secure hotel rooms where we're paying £1,700 a week to stay as we return from our exile on the Isle of Elba. This week it's all the normal, usual stuff: painting chat, gaming chat, quite discursive nonsense, really. Andy's quiz makes another reappearance, and we have another punt at I'm Sorry, I Think You're an Arse as well. So fans of that, or anyone who remembers it from last week, will be delighted. There's also some pretty eclectic stuff this week, but all I can say is sit back, listen out for it, because the podcast is just about to begin.
This means war.
Well, look, we're all here yet again for, I think, 66, possibly, something like that. There's another one sneaking out this week in between us recording this and it hitting the airwaves. That's number 65. So this will be 66.
65 was last week's.
My God, so this might be 67, possibly. Yep. Wow, we're creeping on even more. But look, I think
do we qualify
that's the sign
for a
of
vaccine
the...
yet?
I'm looking at a screen that is basically like a window into 7 lockdown hotels. And I'm not quite sure which red list countries that you've all flown in from, but you all do look like you're securely sequestered in wherever you are at the moment. We've got the full team of 7 back for another week of random and inane chat in the world of painting and wargaming. So without further ado, I will dive in and pick the most COVID-free room with no windows into which people are locked. So let's start with Peter's iPad, whatever that is, and your still slightly protuberant winged hussar hairstyle. Tell us,
well,
Peter, what's been going on in the Peter painting pile? Where have you picked a peck of pickled peppers this week?
Pickled pepper, winged hussars. So slowly cleaning them up. I've got a couple of days off next week, so just sort of setting them up so I can actually. I was going to try and spray them, but then the weather didn't help me. The only day that I could spray it, you banged it down. So just sort of cleaning them up, ready to have a go and find out interesting pictures of them all charging in a great big line, causing havoc. And I was like going, that sounds like fun.
So when you say cleaning up,
so
when you say cleaning them up, does that mean swearing a lot while trying to glue the wings on the back of the buggers?
Haven't yet, because I need a sort of chill zone, enter a zen state to be able to actually stick them together and not me together, which is I don't know how I'm going to do it. Alcohol may be involved, but it usually helps.
Right, so it's a glass of red wine or something like that to chill you out. And then
yes.
do you just physically hold them together, or do you use some blue tack malarkey, or is it complicated attachment of levers and pulleys and things like that?
Levers and pulleys. I mean, I don't know what you're doing with your time off, but you sound like very involved with it. I don't think I really want to know anymore.
No, we'll come to that later.
I usually just hold it. I don't know what's going to be the best thing. I try and hold it first off because why not? And if that doesn't work, then I start trying to get funny with it. But most of the time, you just hold it. It sticks there okay. Use some nice Gorilla Glue, which has gone down quite well in the media over the last 2 weeks. Being able to stick anything together.
Yeah, that lass who Gorilla Glued her hair has been all over social media this week, hasn't it?
Yeah, so really shows it works. I mean, we were ahead of the game with the previous podcast on glue. So I'll use the gel one though because it's a bit sort of stickier.
So it sounds more like a hair product.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Gorilla
maybe
gel.
Glue gel.
Perfect. Yeah. So
in fact, thinking, Peter, your hairstyle has been remarkably unchanged over the last dozen or so podcasts. Are we sure you're not an early forerunner of the Gorilla Glue gel hairstyle thing?
It's just like halfway down my back now. If I turn around, okay. It's like a mane.
Right, it's the armored hat. So has it just been a week of prep then, really? No painting.
Yeah,
paint
in between. No, unfortunately, no painting. It's just joys of doing 101 other things. So it's a case of getting time in to clean up a few models and get it prepped. I was working out other things I want to paint to get around to when I take a bit more time off, especially with the rumored V4 of ADLG coming out. So it's like maybe that's something for the next podcast. Is that what army do you think we can get in each before V4 if we're going to do that?
if it's going to get changed. So a week of no painting. Does this mean this is the first week in history in which you've not gone online and ordered some Austrians?
You see, last one was Poles. I moved a whole country.
Okay, all right. Eastern Europeans, then you've not clicked and collected on any East Europeans?
For some time, yeah.
Wow.
I ordered some French a while back as well, but
that doesn't count.
No, it doesn't usually, because they walked through Austria on the way to see other places, didn't they? Quite often.
They arrived?
Frequently.
Have they arrived as yet?
No. What the Wingters ours have. The French I got a while back. I got some at back when we could socially undistance in Salute. Where we could.
That is quite some time.
Yeah, just a bit. But no, I was. That's what I mean. I'm contemplating ordering something else, but with the whole European thing, I'm sort of, with the Brexit thing messing up trade and being able to ship things over, it's kind of limiting what I can order and where at the moment. So I'm contemplating other things. Okay,
all right. So a fairly sedate, but actually doing preparation rather than bashing through that and then just rushing on to do some other stuff.
Yeah,
that properly.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, look, let's go around the houses.
This means war.
Adam, I think just before we all came on screen, we had a very interesting conversation about how you might remove belly lint from one of your orifices with blue tack. How's that been going, and what have you been painting?
I just don't know how to reply to that first comment, to be perfectly honest. So I think I'm going to put it on the ground and step away slowly. As for the painting, do you know last week I was all like, "Oh, bloody Dacians. It's just all rubbish."
Yeah, you were starting to get sick of them, weren't you? Yeah.
That was the darkest bit before the dawn, and because I think it was like the third batch, and it just seemed unending. And at the time, I was thinking, "Oh, shall I just give them a break for a while?" But I thought, no, I'll carry on pushing through. And the third batch is basically done now, and I'm a good way into the fourth and last batch. And now I'm all sort of like quite positive about it, because I can see the end coming. I can see a complete army. So it'll still be a few weeks, no doubt, but yeah, I'm in a happier place about them, because it's just getting to the point where it's all coming.
So how did you actually batch them up then? Did you do just random collection of warriors, or did you save the bowmen till last, or do it?
4 batches of 30. Well, the last batch is a special treat. I left the last batch. There's only 28.
Did you feel the benefit of extra?
Yeah.
That much
Absolutely.
quicker finish.
But no, it's like I did each batch. I did a couple of bases of warriors, a couple of bases of falconsmen, maybe a base of bows. Although the last batch again, I've left sort of all the skirmishes, which for some reason, because I can put them onto bases first, just makes it seem easier. So the last batch I've sort of like left as the easier one as well. So I'm doing bits and bits and bits and bits. And it's kind of nearly there now, which is all like good.
That psychology of thinking, when I pick this figure up, it's going to be, by the time I put it down, it's going to be a long way towards being finished, which you can get with a base of light infantry, but a base of 6 people is just much more. 6 people that are not even based is much harder to do. I think that psychologically really helps if you're starting something or even ending something, I think. So,
well, and one thing that I've also decided, because the next ADLD army I'm going to do, which I'm not I was going to sort of like do some other painting first, just to give myself a break. I was thinking, shall I do late Romans, because I've got some, or shall I do sort of Ordnance French? And I've decided to go for the Ordnance French, because quite a lot of that painting will be spray gunmetal. It's kind of done. So yeah, I think I'll go for the sort of like the easier one. Although I might be looking around for any recommendations for 25mm transfers for sort of like late medieval stuff?
You need some fancy flags with it.
I think for the 28mm transfers, I think you do have more options than LBMS. It definitely is worth looking for other ones. I'm just trying to think what some of those ones are. Some of the flag companies do them as water slide, but again, I think I might have mentioned this before, that I've moved and drifted towards trying to create my own a bit, which sounds a bit bonkers, but it just means you get something different, because I think LBMS has become so ubiquitous that it's like, I don't know, 15 years ago when we all used to play 15mm DBM, and you'd sit down and go, I recognize those Essex figures in your army because I have those Essex figures in my army, and they're all in the same pose. And Steve here's got the Essex figures, and we're all using literally the same army using the same figures. And there's a bit to which LBMS have become so ubiquitous. It's like, actually, if I get something that's a little bit shitter, but it's mine, that's a different.
I think in some armies it doesn't really matter. Like Roman shields are supposed to be sort of like non-individual, so that's okay. But for your more barbarian type armies, I think you're right. It's all a bit. I mean, it's the amount of playing Saga, the amount of Vikings and Saxons that had exactly the same shield pattern.
Yeah,
it's amazing when you see going to some of the cathedrals and that going around Europe. Usually, there's some of the older ones. They've had the shields of the different heraldries that help sponsor the cathedral and this and the other. So I remember going into a couple, and there's absolute hundreds upon hundreds of little different designs and everything else. So I'm with Tim on this. If you can, if you've got the time to spend it in a printer, you can really go to town to really differentiate with the heraldry designs. Some really nice, weird and wonderful ones out there if you want to just step away from the usual printout ones to individualize it.
Yeah, and if you're doing shields, you can actually, as my Hungarians have done, all those all that time ago, those 15mm Hungarians, or the wallpaper on those Assyrian chariots and the siege wagons. For shields, you can actually just print it out on paper, stick it on and cut it out. And I guess if you're using the Perry figures with separate shields, you could even stick the paper to the shields and trim them before you stick them on the figure, so you can kind of tidy up the edges. But I think it's worth half an hour or so noodling around Pinterest, and Pinterest boards, and doing searches on Pinterest to see what you can come up with that's just not the standard stuff. I think I've ended up doing somewhere I've literally used pictures of actual historical shields as the shield, and that's kind of pretty cool because it's different. Dave, you're a Pinterest nerdler, aren't you? You've got.
I am indeed, but they weren't very useful for Spanish medieval armies. I was like desperately seeking. There's loads of stuff on the War of the Roses and things like that, but or any of the families of the Norman conquest who still run our country.
Just occurs to me there may be a source. I've not checked it out, but when we went to Dover Castle last year, one of the rooms we looked around had some nice shields, and of course you couldn't take photos, which is a bit of a shame. But it occurs to me, if you go to some of the stately homes and castles and places, maybe online
you can steal some, couldn't you? Yeah, if you're quick. There's probably not a lot of people around there.
I'd really like to do is for someone to tell me where I can buy some water transfer slides for sort of like horse armor and tabards that I can just buy and stick on without too much of a hassle. So if none of you guys can, if anybody after listening to this wants to put some recommendations in Facebook, and flags as well.
If you go to Damien at Donington, he's got flags for all of the French ordnance commands. But if you ask him nicely and email him, he'll turn them into 25mm flags.
Okay.
Really? I didn't know that's worth knowing.
Really recommend them because I've used them for the Spanish.
So they do look nice, those.
You get like a history of each, who each person is. So it's got all the Burgundians and all that sort of thing.
That's a good thing. Although unlike you, Dave, where you did and this person was the Count of Monte Cristo and this person was they're not. It's these they're probably going to see services. French Ordnance, Italians, War of the Roses, Free Companies. So I just want it to look convincingly late medieval. So if someone that didn't know what they were looking at would go, oh, that's brilliant, rather than if someone wants to go, I think you'll find that that's a late 15th century French heraldry and you're using it in a War of the Roses army. So that's completely, I'll just off. So
I think you're looking at, so Battle Flag have a transfer section which bizarrely has got its own website, which is wargametransfers.com, So they have some water slide transfers.
What do you think they sell?
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit of a giveaway. And then I think also Maverick Models do, well, clearly they do flags, but I'm trying to think if they do water slide transfers as well. I don't think so. Maybe not, no. But there is a couple of other ones who do it that you can have a look for. But we'll have a dig. We'll see what we can do. But yeah, good idea. If anybody else out there listening to this has got any ideas, you can also go on to Facebook and post them on the Madaxeman Facebook page, and some of us will see it and be desperately grateful. Possibly even give you a name check next week, which is a bonus. So you've been managing then, Adam, just to finish the Dacians. You're thinking about because I think you did admit that you'd found those Perry plastics. I'm assuming it's going to be a Perry based army that you're going to end up moving towards next time, or maybe not.
Yeah, well, if I do it will be Perry, because if you're going to do late high medieval, not only are the Perry plastics probably the cheapest figures you can get,
yeah,
they're also possibly the best figure. They're just very good. I'm not sure why I would sort of like go elsewhere. So I might look elsewhere for maybe commanders or individual figures. But even then, when I say elsewhere, I probably mean I would look at Perry metallic metals. So yeah. Because they do the knights, they do the foot chaps, they do the ordnance bows, or I'll use War of the Roses. They do the pikeys for the Swiss. They kind of and they just work together as a coherent whole.
Yeah, well, I did. There was one of the posts on one of the Facebook groups I'm in this week. I think Paul from up in York was saying that whilst he loves, people do love the Perry figures, they are a teeny bit wooden relative to metal sculpts, and there was a bit of a chat about it, and it was kind of actually thinking, I suppose a metal sculpt is sculpted and designed as a single piece, so it can be dynamic, whereas the Perrys are astonishingly they're designed to be mix and match, which puts some sort of limits on how dynamic the torsos and the legs and all the rest of it can be, but they're still a phenomenal achievement. And then there's an extra factor that they're more normally proportioned, and our brains as wargamers are just geared towards looking at chubbier dynamic people, so we probably get a little bit of a disconnect. But yeah, it was just remembering that thing, that the fact that they're built the way they are, which is astonishing, and they're beautiful, does sometimes mean you can get more dynamic stuff in a single cast in a metal pose, which is an interesting way of looking at it. But heck, for the money, they're fantastic, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And all it's dynamics good, but and I discovered this with the Romans using the Victrix attacking legionaries, just fitting the buggers on the base. You can't have two, because my Victrix legionaries are very dynamic, and they're supposed to be 8 to a base, and I was struggling to get 6 on. So
6 is cheaper.
Yeah.
It makes it cheaper as well, but it takes away a little bit from that sort of like Mass Effect. You know what I mean? It's I would have preferred it. Well, no, actually, they look good because they're all sort of like throwing and stabbing and blah blah blah. But if I was going to do, like, when I do the Ordnance Swiss, I'm going to have at least 12 pikeys on each base, because I want it to look like just a sort of like solid, massive pike. So if they're sort of like too dynamic, all of a sudden it's like, and he's not going to fit behind that, and blimey, and now that base has got to go next to another base. What
are you going to use for your pikes? Because I always make the mistake. I mean, they stand out nice. I use the actual metal spikes, proper, ones that have been metal to the leaf end, but I always end up stabbing myself badly when I'm actually using them. I always forget to file them down. I don't like having the plastic floppy things or anything else. I like it that, as you say, it's supposed to look vicious, hedgehoggy type thing, but how to do it without stabbing myself to death as I'm using it, I haven't worked out yet.
Does the Perry pikeys come with plastic pikes?
Yes, I've got some. I got some Warlord ones. I made a Condottieri army, and using mainly Perry figures, you can get about 8 foot knights onto a base, but you need to put them in carefully and model how you're going to do it first to make sure they fit, because of the somebody got arms and legs and bits of weapon floating everywhere if you're not careful. But I think I got warlord pikes, and some of them were landsknechts and some were kind of armored pike guys from the 15th century. And you can get 12 of those on a base, but you might need to cut the flanges of the bases a bit. They'll still stand up properly, but it's just that the width of the base on the kind of the oval bottom bit is too wide to fit them. But you can trim the edges off and it'll still stand up, and you can get your 12 guys in that way. Okay,
because in answer to your sort of like pike question, it's like I've heard lots of good things about by a broom, so I might give
brooms. I've got a broom because I did buy one, and they're not quite long enough for 28mm pikes.
Oh no,
is the long and the short of it. I'll go grab it, but they're good for 15 and the rest of it. But the bits that I've got are not quite long enough for 28mm pikes. So
okay, so if I buy a broom,
do you use the Perry ones? Are absolutely fine, but they will bend a bit, but sometimes they will snap, and then you glue them back together with Airfix glue. But how much rough handling are they getting? Or you replace them with metal pikes, which is a bit of faff cutting them out the hands, and you've got to remember to trim the edges, trim the tops off, or flatten them a bit. Otherwise, you'll impale yourself and might die.
Well, no, it's because I've got Swiss 15mm Mirliton, which are quite nice figures, and their pikes I did brass rod. I did brass rod, and I sort of like hit the end, cut them down, hit the end with an hammer, and filed them off so it's in a point. And although that can be dangerous because I'll impale myself, it's also got a please don't lean on my figures sort of thing going on. It helps protect. Warning
sort of sign going up, isn't it?
It helps protect the figures, you know what I mean? Because it's like no one's going to accidentally put too much pressure on them. So I might actually go, because I did brass rod for me 15s, and I might just go with slightly larger brass rod for the 28s. But if I'm have a look at the Perry pikes as well, because one thing I'm worried about is plastic pikes do seem a little bit too snappable.
Yeah, I've got
the figures are vertical, so you're less likely to have accidents bumping into other units and things.
Yeah, I've got the broom here actually. I think there's a couple of questions. So you can't quite, I can't quite snap the or cut the bristles off right flat at the base, but I can get up to about 65mm long, which is not quite pike.
No, you need about 90 to 100mm for.
You need 90 to 100, so you definitely can't get 90 to 100 out of this broom head that I've got. And the bristles are, you look at them and you go, that's a 15mm thick pike. It's not quite robust enough for another one, but so you can buy the metal ones, which are expensive.
In scale, they should be about 1 to 1.2, 1.3mm.
They need to be 28mm pike need to be shorter than they should be for scale. Because otherwise, if you actually do them the correct height,
I was talking about
compared to the figure,
1 to 1.2, 1.3mm.
Mm-hmm.
What sort of airbrush would you use aperture to paint those then? Is there an airbrush aperture for painting the thick? No. We'll go down that rabbit hole.
Well, broom manufacturers to produce 15th century's Swiss brooms.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe I've just been to the wrong broom shop, and there's an online broom shop where you can select the length of bristle or something like that. That we
or I might take my tape measure down to Wix or something.
I think these brooms are more your kind of local, corner shoppy, Arkwrights, everything piled in a corner. That's where you want to be looking at them, because your Wicks tend to be sort of disposable plasticky type ones that they're designed so that you come back. But
just around the corner from me, I've got sort of like, I think it's a hardware shop that I think it's been the same bloke running it since 1954, because it's just crammed full of stuff in no order whatsoever. So it's like a Two Ronnie sketch. You got to go in and you ask him, and he goes, hang on a minute, and he tootles off and he comes back. So, but that might be a bit, mind you, I might be able to say to him, hang on, mate, what's the length of bristles on your broom then? And
he'll love it. That will be like Christmas to someone who works in one of those shops.
Go in there.
It'll be good. I got 8 centimetre, I got 6 centimetre, and I got 10 centimetres. I will have that.
So you trying to say he'll end up being like the wargamer type, but of DIY shops?
The wargamer of DIY
The
shop.
guy goes, "Oh, I had a guy in last week who was asking for a 16th century Swiss broom for his." And I said, "Do you want 15mm or 25mm?"
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not sure they make 25mm brooms for the Swiss anymore.
Yeah, you could do a not the 9 o'clock news sketch, couldn't you? You want a broom, you say. What length bristles do you want?
Yeah, George, we've got another one out here. He wants Swiss ones.
Yeah, he's got Swiss.
The French one wasn't good enough for you. Or did you want the Hungarian?
Millimeter.
And is it one of those? Is it one of those shops, Adam, that in the current kind of lockdown they basically closed the shop and put and built a barrier so that you stand at the door and then they run and
exactly
go
that. Because that's what used to happen anyhow. Because what used to happen is you would open the door and you would go in about 45 centimetres and there would be a counter there. So now it's just sort of like you don't get to go in the 45 centimetres. He opens the door, he's got a barrier, and you say to him and he toddles off and sort of like comes back again. So,
but that's what used to happen with those shops, because even when you could mooch around them, you'd mooch around it for 10 minutes. Then even being a bloke who does wargaming stuff, you'd eventually crack and you'd have to go up to counter and say, "Look, I'm trying to find some of these. Where are they?" Because you're kind of the frustration building up again. I should be able to find this. I'm a capable geezer, but I can't. But I don't want to.
Sometimes it's like every time I walk past, I look at it and think, I just want to go and ask him for 4 candles.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But then you go up to the counter and you ask for something, and he goes, "Oh yeah, it's over here," and they go and find it straight away, and you feel woefully inadequate as a human being, because they just know that stuff. So, okay, so where do we get to on that? I think you probably need to buy some metal ones, mate, or see if you fancy a pair of plastics or brass rods, possibly.
You want a bit of
one
brass
of 3
rod
choices. Unless
so I'll have a look at the Perry ones when they come, but it's like, yeah, because just snapping once and it's snapped forever. Mind you, they can be.
Didn't you cough up the fact that you already owned some about 2-3 weeks ago? Did you find some in the back of a cupboard?
No, I've got some knights and some sort of like medieval light horse. I haven't actually. Did I buy the
European Mercenaries box? That's the one with the Swiss pikemen in.
Yeah, I might. In fact, I tell you what, if I have done, that'll be a pleasant surprise. It'll be like a free box of toy soldiers. Although I'll go and check later.
See, look, it's just, this is basically a money making thing, isn't it?
It's Christmas all over again.
This podcast, it is indeed.
This means war.
So look, with Christmas in mind, Dave, you look like you're calling to us from Santa's grotto there with your that looks like, that doesn't even look like your normal Hefesteiner. That looks like something.
You're trying to say it looks like an elf?
The Hefenstefener seems to suffered under Brexit as well. Is Waitrose are not doing it online, and my local Waitrose is sold out. And so is the one in Ruislip.
My God. So you've been scouring northwest London for Hefenstefensteiner?
Well, I've actually been reduced at Erdingerbrow.
Oh, dear.
That sounds serious.
Yeah, and that's brewed in Slough, isn't it, I think?
Yeah, exactly. It's a byproduct of the petrochemical
Yeah, petrochemical industry, for sure. Good. So what's your painting week been, Dave?
Still doing the Battle of the Boeing. 6 packs done. I'm just literally painting the bases onto the first 3 of the 6 I've done. And that's the army done, I suppose. There's still a lot to do. I've still got 4 6 packs to do, 2 lots of cavalry, some Scotsmen. That's going to be a laugh. I've never painted Scotsmen, especially 17th century Scotsmen.
So how did you end up painting the frilly shoulder things after our long debate last week?
Yes, they got painted as frilly. So I've done them. I can't remember actually. No. So I've done 3 Huguenot regiments. 2 are sort of like normal with they're in grey basically. One's sort of blue, one sort of thing, and then the ones with the orange are really good because what they've done, they've got frilly shoulders for the musketeers, and they've got helmets for the pikemen, and they've all got orange sashes, so they actually look the full Monty protty nonsense. All they need is umbrellas and bowler hats.
Yeah, indeed, umbrellas, bowler hats. And then you could get some baggage built up with like a big mural on the side of a house or something.
Yeah, exactly. Really go the whole hog. Yeah.
Go the whole absolute hog. So it's just been, doing your work for other people. Then this has been your commission project. Has anything of your own slipped in this week? Or
I'm really enjoying it. I'm only, once I'm past halfway, it's going to. With painting any army, when you sort of like, oh no, another 6-pack of Renaissance infantry, I've painted 8, I've still got 2 more to go. I'm far from that point. I'm enjoying it. They're good. They're good little figures as well. They take ink quite well, and the bandoliers come out really well, and all that sort of thing.
Actually, yeah, bandoliers are always good with a spot of ink, aren't they? They really ping if you do it.
That really works. So they're good. That's about it, really. Just banging away at that.
Okay. Are you doing sort of targeted ink along the strapping and the bandoliers, or are you doing just like an overall ink wash?
It's just sort of like, it's a very light ink, but I think the bandoliers are so pronounced that a little bit of ink goes a long way with them. It also brings out the collars, cuffs, and they've got indentations for the jackets, the buttonholes, the jackets and things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, because I think it was trying to remember what it was, a few years ago, someone in fact, it might have been Bob Amy on Facebook, suggested to me that diluting the war painter, the army painter inks, which I just never thought of, because they do that range of, light, medium, strong, or whatever it is. And he said, look, they get an ink dilution. They're not even called inks, are they? They're called shaders or something. You get a diluting one, and you can dilute them down even further for doing on a really pale color, and it still works. And I now do that actually quite a lot. It's particularly for doing on white, because even the lightest one gives everything a bit too much of a mucky brown tinge sometimes.
Well, I use the Coat d'Arms inks, the big bottles.
Okay.
I've used them for ages, and I quite like them. They get a bit. I've got one which is brown, but it's gone completely gunky. There's almost two lots of things. So I've given up on that one. That was beginning basically. But the black ink, most often I water it down. I wet the brush quite heavily and then put it into the ink so it's quite wet, and that way it dilutes it down quite a bit. But what I tend to do is paint the base colour, ink them, and then I'll do the jacket again. So these Battle of the Boyne Dutch and Danish have got light grey jackets, so I'll paint the jacket. What I've done is painted the jacket a sort of mid-grey, then I've inked it to bring out the bandolier, then I've gone over the top and repainted the jacket in light grey, so it really pings. It basically, the second coat on the jacket makes them really stand out.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's quite a neat way of doing it, isn't it? Because then because it's not a pure play ink technique, and it's not a pure play, Foundry 3-layer technique either. It's doing a little bit of hybrid, but it does actually work for some of those details.
Shading on the jackets and things like that when you've got the 2 coats on it. It's really, that's my new technique: is paint a base coat, put some ink on it to bring out the detail, and then paint the base coat over it again in a slightly different shade, and it makes it pink. I think that's really good.
Okay. Well, while we're on the subject of impressive technical painting technique, I'll skip over everybody else and go straight to Tamsin. Did stuff arrive in your house? Did you end up starting painting anything, or were you just finishing the 6mm people there?
Well, still on the 6mm because I keep distracting myself.
Right. Okay.
So it's been slow progress, and haven't got a lot left to do on the Union Cavalry.
Yep, they've got.
It's got flesh, hair, sort of black leather, and metals.
I'm sorry, hair. Do you mean hair on the people or hair on the horses?
Hair on the people.
Right. That's above and beyond. What are you going to do? Proper American Civil War beards on them?
Some of them will be getting beards, but most it will just be sort of a dab of dark grey or very dark grey, black grey or brown on the back of the head.
Okay. I think my 6 men are lucky to have heads sometimes. But
and going back to your original question, stuff has arrived today.
Oh, excellent. World War II stuff.
Yep. So there's a whole load of US Airborne from Crusader and Artisan, so it's North Star. And also,
what scale are those, Tamsin?
Pardon?
What scale are those?
28.
Right.
So given they're US Airborne, the big question is: are you going to be painting the 82nd Division shoulder pad tags or whatever it is, or are you going to be painting the 101st? Are we going to see Little Eagles? Neither.
It was 503rd Parachute Infantry Regiment, which wasn't attached to a division.
Oh, so do they get their own very complicated, difficult shoulder patch, or?
Not until after, I think it was Corregidor.
Okay. So basically, you're going to duck the most complicated
B-45
US para.
So they didn't actually have a sort of insignia bit until then.
Oh, no. Okay, well, at least that makes us all feel slightly better when you suddenly turn up with 80 perfectly rendered 28mm Eagles heads or something like that.
Yeah, but you're going to have them all sort of suitably weathered and anything else, because they're basically wearing rags by the end of that, weren't they?
By then, yeah, they were wearing a complete mishmash because they didn't get the same resupply that 101st and 82nd.
I hear they got supplied with a load of red berets.
Yeah.
But they should have been. They bloody well should have been, really, shouldn't they? That's what I think. That's it. Okay, so when do you think you'll be actually cracking open those little plastic blisters then for the 28s?
I'll probably start prepping the figures this week.
Because a couple of weeks ago you said you do one project and then start the other, but you're saying that prepping doesn't count quite.
Prepping doesn't count. Prepping's not the same as painting.
It's not the same as starting, is it?
I can do this at a different table.
Oh right, yeah. I suppose now you've got your house must have
prepping doesn't count.
away.
Oh, is that a shot across me? Because I didn't paint something this week. I think you're just like guilting me.
Yep, that could have been it. Okay, all right. So we've got that to look forward to then. All right. Well, let's carry on around the houses. Andy, what about you? Your washing machine seems to not be involved, and I think you've had a bit of a prick this week or something. In our ongoing effort to become 7 fat lardies or whatever it is, fit in a joke of that type. Talk us through your painting though, if you can.
Yes, well, painting this week has been the skeleton 10mm army. I've done pretty well most of the cavalry now, and I'm on the infantry. I've done 5 units of infantry. I've got about 7 or 8 to do, and those are spearmen. And after that, I've got about 9 or 10 bowmen. So I think Adam said kind of chimed with me, and I'm slightly worried that I'll get to a point and I think, oh, I'm stuck in the middle of this. There's so much more to do, and can I really be bothered? So I'm hoping I don't get those get feeling like that. But I reckon this whole job's going to take me, I'm reckoning 2 to 3 months.
What, the skeletons?
Yeah.
My Lord.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, there's I've got to paint about 30 units.
So are you?
But you'll mainly be using. Sorry, you'll mainly be using a spray can to paint them, won't you?
I'm not allowed using spray because River's got asthma and we haven't got a garden, so I can't really use spray.
Okay.
But do you not?
You want to get an airbrush?
Is it not done by a dry brush technique then? Do you paint all the bones individually?
No, not quite. No, I mean I am kind of undercoating the. My son undercoated some of this stuff in black, and black's too strong a colour for the bone colour. So I've got to do about 2 coats of those, which he's undercoated. But the rest of them I've undercoated in grey, and they're taking 1 coat of bone colour, so that's going a bit easier. And then I just go and do the weapons and the flags and things like, and the shields and stuff. So it's fairly sort of quick and dirty process for painting them. But there's just so many of them that it's taken time.
And do the are they riding skeletons riding proper horses or skeletons riding skeleton horses?
Skeleton horses. This is one, if you can see it. I don't know if that visible at all. Yeah. Right. So I've done about 6 units of those, and about 4 of them as light cavalry, and that's the skeleton cavalry. They've got some chariots as well, and a couple of funky things like bone giants and sphinxes and skeleton artillery, as well as the infantry. So I reckon there's, let's say, about 2 months of work in doing all of that, and then I move on to something else, I think.
So this is going to be the next 6 to 8 weeks. We're going to be coming to you, and it's going to be like when Peter was painting Austrians or Simon was painting Swedes, and it would be like, this week I've mostly been doing bone as my color of choice, and I'll be painting a bit more bone, and then doing some highlights of bone, really.
And I've got to go and buy another bottle of bone paint. Now I'm hoping to get most of the bone stuff done. If I do them in batches, I can then alternate it a bit by saying, well, I've done the bone on the figures, now I'll do the shields, and use different colors for that to change the scenery slightly.
You actually use skeleton bone paint? Is that literally the color you use?
Using Coat d'Arms bone color.
Right. Okay. So I wonder if that's for like real people's bones possibly, and it's not quite as good a match to skeleton bone as skeleton bone.
Well, they've probably been out in the sun a bit, so
unless they've been in lockdown, maybe they've not been able to get out as much. They could be looking a little bit paler and losing some colour possibly. Actually, Simon, if you tell us what you've been up to with, I'm guessing Ottomans this week.
Yeah, there may have been a bit of Ottoman work over the weekend. So I've now finished all the janissaries, all the capicouli, so the nobility, all the generals, and all the heavy cavalry, the syphilis, or however you want to pronounce that one.
Sipahis.
I hope it's Sipahis, yeah.
Okay,
I really do hope it's Sipahis.
I've gone for quite a pretty design, so there's all reds, blues, purples, and things like that. Now all based, varnished up, so I've got them all ready to go. So all I've got to finish now is the medium cavalry, and that'll be army number 8 for COVID.
Wow, 8. Is that all armies from scratch, or is that
all armies from scratch?
Wow. So what were the other 7? Remind me, or can you remember?
The Swedes for 7 Years' War. We've got the Dwarves for the Fantasy. We've got the Skaven for Dragon Rampant. We've got obviously the Janissaries. Then there was there's been definitely
some Austrians or Swedes for Napoleonic, was there?
Yes, the Austrians and Swedes. There's also quite a few Chinese for the 25 mil. So I did all the chariots and the Indians, and Peter will be happy. Lots of elephants.
That was it. Yep, elephants. Yep.
Ancient British, weren't there?
Yep, and I also did all the ancient British. So that was 400 points of ancient British. From stripping them all the way down. I also added all the Chinese chariots, and it's been a long 12 months.
Yeah, it's been a long 12 months. Very good for makers of Bisley filing cabinets, I imagine. That's been
definitely kept some of our favourite vendors employed by IQRF. I need some more miniatures.
No, definitely. And then we managed to do an accidental handoff as well, didn't we? In a way that I'm hoping wasn't filmed by any CCTV around central London on at the weekend, wasn't it?
Don't worry, no one's listening to this. Nothing to worry about.
Yeah, it's quite dubious. I happened to be exercising down near Hyde Park. You happened to drive by, and I happened to have a bag of miniatures that I'd ordered for you. So there's this guy leaning over with a brown envelope to a guy in a car, and then drives off very quickly.
Well, good news is MI5's got a file on both of you now.
Oh,
I suspect it had before. To be honest, Peter, but
no, that's GCHQ. That was a different thing. They were listening.
Oh, that's a different file. Yeah. Oh dear, yes. But the days when I used to visit there. But no, it was kind of weird because it was down by one of the tube stations just off Hyde Park, and there wasn't kind of parking on the road. So I drove down the road, realized it was all double yellow lines. So literally kind of pulled up, and Simon gave me a brown envelope through the window of my car, and then I drove off. And it was like a small brown envelope as well. It was obviously containing something, of weight or whatever.
Note wide or high. You imagine a stack about 10,000-15,000 pounds worth.
And then I actually passed you back an envelope back of those kind of homemade shield
they probably just thought you were working for one of the newspapers then.
That could have been it. So
that
was some of.
I think it's platform for Victoria Station. That was the favoured place, wasn't it, for exchanging brown envelopes?
Yeah.
Was it?
It could be, but I don't think my Mini would have fitted onto the concourse there, and I'm not going anywhere near public transport for at least another few months. But yeah, it was good. So that got some of the museum sort of the new Greek light cavalry and medium cavalry. And there's a mix of them that I'm going to use to change my handful of Thracians into a proper Thracian army. So I've got some Zeiston Thracian infantry that were painted years ago that I want to add some cavalry to it. And the new museum Greek light cavalry, there's some bare-headed ones, and there's some bare-chested ones, and there's some archery ones. And I thought they would actually look quite good. And they're cheaper at the moment, or were cheap at the moment. And they're really nice figures. There's a real nice lot of variety. They're much better defined than some of the hoplites I got a while ago as well. So they're on the to be sprayed pile as we speak. And then a range of, I think it was some 80 by 80 bases to do some tercio things. So I've actually just based one up at the moment. It's a little bit short on the shooters on the corners, a couple of them, but I probably need to rescue some more from a different set of basing techniques. So that's getting me a couple of ADLGR tercios ready to go with some of the other keels that I did the other week, which should be fun. So the Thracians are on the to-do pile, but again, this has been sort of half prep, half finishing week. So I also got some Pendragon stuff as well that came with the bases, wasn't it? Some more 10 mil. So I've since then, at the weekend, which is only a few days, I've painted up and based some 17 pounders in 10 mil. I think there's a couple which are potentially for the airborne. So I've managed to find enough crew with berets to paint them red. And then some of the others because there weren't quite enough. There were some Piat guys as well, Piat teams that have gone on to bases of my British Airborne to give them some anti-tank capability in 10 mil. But I just decided, again, as we veer towards being 7 fat lardies, that the answer to my my problem of last week was just to paint their helmets red and just deal with it, because at that sort of scale you can't really tell, because it's a beret or a helmet.
Did Paris have 17 pounders? That seems like quite a bit of heavy kit to bring in a glider or
yeah, they brought some at Arnhem. Yeah. They brought some to Arnhem, and it really caught the Germans out. It really surprised them, as much as it surprised you by the sounds of it.
Yeah. I thought they've had 6 pounders, but
I think there were 2 batteries.
Right.
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, you can get up to
around
3
on jeeps and things.
I'm not sure. Actually, for 17 pounders, I think if that was what they had the Morris quads tractors for.
Wow. Possible. Well, look, so I've got a couple of 17 pounders, because for my British Airborne Force for BKC, because it doesn't get any armor, it's quite difficult to build up to sort of 1,000 or so, a decent number of points. But then you stick in a couple of 17 pounders and you're okay with it. And I've got some 6 pounders to go. So, and then another one for the actual British themselves. So, and then I also finished rebasing my 10 mil American Paras, who do have little eagles' heads on their shoulders, because I painted them a long time ago when I had much better eyesight and more patience, really. And so the eagles' heads are great, but they are old arrowhead figures, and their heads do tend to fall off. So I think there's a couple of the guys are a bit Roland the Headless Thompson gunner in a tribute to Warren Zevon as they march around the battlefield. So I've got British paras, American paras, US infantry, British infantry, and Germans, all done for 10 mil World War II, and then all of the British armor and vehicles done as well. So it's just finishing off the large number of very complicated German camo vehicles to do that. So that's been kind of a bit of an epic. And then in this sort of messy desk world, I've also been rebasing loads of 50 mil hoplites. So what I've done after I biostripped a load of hoplites and repainted the whole thing, and I came to the conclusion after doing that repainting the whole lot is just a waste of time because you just see the bloody shields. So I've just taken all my old slightly rough painted ones off their bases, and I'm going to paint out the shields and use shield transfers on all the shields, repaint their spears, do some kind of black lining on the tips of the spears, and redo a few of the crests to tidy them up. So the bit that you see will be better, and then rebase them on 40 by 30s on sort of 7 or 8 to a block to do that. So I've got I've got a little box of 15 mil hoplites that are all ready to be redone and re-shielded, but nothing else to do there to work through. And then I also, whilst I was at it, because I was rebasing them, so I was kind of standing them in a box of water to make all the bases go soft. So I ended up, I think after the podcast that we did about the 100 Years' War, and then the other one that we just recorded about the Crusades, I suddenly thought I should really repaint some of my old Mirliton communal Italian era figures, because they were just not quite good enough. I think I must have painted them with the wrong style or in a rush or something. The Mirliton figures, I think, Dave, have you done a few of these? They're a bit difficult because they're quite delicate. They're quite properly proportioned to do.
I found them really, I mean, at first thought, I mean, I painted some again like you a long time ago, Mirliton Spearmen, and I quite liked them from the pictures, and I thought they seemed like really good figures, but I found them quite difficult to paint. I don't know why. They just seem to. Yeah,
I think so thin.
I think it's because
I would call them grey-style is what my description of them.
Yeah.
A few years ago, when I was doing 15 mil a lot, my two favourite ranges were Corvus Belli and Mirliton. Yeah. And I think they were both excellent figures, but they were very, very different. Corvus Belli was like chubby and cartoonish, and they're just easier to paint because things like they take inks better and there's deeper recesses and stuff. Whereas the Mirliton were properly proportioned figures that looked like humans, and the recesses weren't that deep because, let's face it, they shouldn't be. So they were just harder to paint. Lovely figures, but they weren't designed for all those painting techniques that everybody uses, I think.
Yeah, weren't they picked up by Kursan figures?
No, not Mirliton. You're thinking of what was the other ones? That very small range of 30 Years' War stuff. But Mirliton is still out of Italy, and they do quite a lot of interesting ranges. But yeah, they are properly proportioned, which at 15 mil is pretty slender. It means they've got some quite weak ankles as well on some of the figures. They're almost the best way to paint them would be to just ink the bare metal. And then take good photography of them. That would really show them off properly. But actually painting them with colours and paints and stuff is a bit more of a challenge. And you know, I think I won an army in a competition sometime, a communal Italian army in the days of DBM. And I thought, you know, these are marvellous figures. I've got to do them. And I painted them in a kind of black undercoat and a bit of sort of painted for effect on top of them. And it just didn't work. So I want to have another go at them with some bolder, stronger colours and see how they maybe work a little bit better. So I've got those sat in the bio strip at the moment, seeing how they bubble away.
So the other one,
the one I was thinking of was Testudo. That was it.
Testudo, that was it. Yeah.
With those Mirliton ones, they were one of the armies that was my army that I brought over with me when I moved to England 11 years ago, and they were painted horribly white. So, and they do strip down quite well, but especially like some of most of mine were medieval ones. The Swiss have the big puffy shoulder pads and all that, you might need a little bit of a knife to get into the cracks, because the bi-strip's good, but some of those cracks can take a little bit of effort. But with a more liquidy white paint and all that, they come up a whole lot nicer. So you look at them now and go, actually, they're not half bad.
Yeah, my Swiss are still fine. I think I did the Swiss with a black undercoat and bolder colours, but I think the problem with my communal Italians, maybe at some stage I hit them with an ink wash, because I was just in a phase of thinking troops should be a bit dirtier and a bit more battle worn. And then in retrospect, 10 years later, you look at them and go, I've ruined them. They just look a mess. And so I just want to kind of biostrip them down and probably print off some shields and do all that other stuff and put some proper spears on as well, because I think I used the original spears, which are spaghetti metal, which is just not good. So my broom is going to get a bit of a battering.
Those
Mirliton.
Lardies again. We're here. It's all happening. But yeah, so I'll be trying to get those back on table at some point. In amongst, and in fact, I did, Peter, manage to get some spraying done this afternoon. I snuck out and did some black undercoat on a handful of Sassanid horses that I got from Giuseppe in Italy as part of that order that was Dave's feudal Spanish. So I needed a couple more basal. No, I didn't need. I would like and wanted and bought, because sod it, a few more bases of Sassanids to bulk out my Sassanid army.
Well, you got loads of Sassanids. I remember you running over me with a load.
I've only got 9 bases of cavalry, actually, and that's sort of.
And how many can you deploy? 8. Right.
Minor detail.
You can only have 8 elite. You can have 16 of the things altogether.
You have loads of them in a 300-point game, which is what we'll all be playing in the future.
Yeah,
and then
that's the way to go. Inflation.
Exactly. And then I also had some Swiss, which came in from Italy in the same order.
How was the painting? I thought it was a bit cold for it. Not that I was, while I was on my conference calls looking out the window.
I actually went out on my push bike this afternoon because I had to drop some stuff off in a post box or in a parcels post box, because I sold on eBay like 2 or 3 bits. I sold a few of the 10mm tanks that I'd not painted and not repainted because they were slightly out of scale with the rest. I sold 2 units of Blue Moon Swiss pikemen that I just, they were lovely, but they were just too out of scale with the Mirliton and QRF and Donington Swiss pike that I got. And I just thought, bite the bullet, someone else can benefit from them. And I sold a single Malifaux figure as well on eBay over the last couple of days. So I had to do a quick, and the weather was actually really nice today. It was like proper normal day, but so I went out and dropped those in a post box and cycled around a bit. But then the other miraculous thing this week from a shopping point of view was paint lids. I ordered some paint lids. I think we whinged about this on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and someone had contacted me. In fact, Martin from Vexilia had contacted me on Twitter to say you can get replacement paint lids for your coat d'arms paint from Black Hat, and they're about 30p each. And I kind of went online, and it's true. And so I ordered 15 of them, thinking that'll be more than I need. And I've got a set of replacement paint lids, because the coat d'arms paint lids, the paints last for a long time, but the lids just crack and just sort of break and stuff like that. So I ordered 15, and I spent.
You know what that means, Tim. You obviously not got enough horses to paint. If the lids are cracking and you're not using up all the paint, obviously you should be buying more horses, not more lids.
I don't think it's possible for me to buy more horses.
It is. It is.
But when I've got like
try an Austrian army.
Yeah, possibly. But so I got some new paint lids and replaced the old ones, which is a little bit tricky. You've got to kind of cut that white plastic ring off, which you've got to cut away from yourself rather than towards yourself. And I've got proof on my thumb that I can show you why that's a really bad idea, to try and cut towards yourself. Now I've learned to cut away from myself, get that off, and then you just push the other ones in, and suddenly you've got brand new paint tins. And you even have to peel off that little, bit that's around the thing to open them again. It's like having brand new paint.
So how much is a coat d'arms actual getting
They're about £3, aren't they? New paint's about 280, £3.
So you've gone through half the paint already. You've gone and put another lid on it. You've spent time cutting your thumb up to it. Yeah, I think I'll just buy another pot.
It's 35p as opposed to £2.80 or something like that, and it'll the paint will last for long. But in terms of other stuff lasting, the other thing that has been a bit odd this week is when I was putting these 17-pounders together, these Pendragon ones, they're like 3-part models, with my Gorilla Glue gel, super glue brush and nozzle, which is marvelous. The glue didn't stick, and I was just like, what's going on here? Because like some sort of erudite glue takes forever to set, but Gorilla Glue and super glue is just done, except sometimes when it doesn't.
Was it just not clean or something? It had some dust on it or something?
Well, no, it was fresh out. Maybe it was fresh out of the packet, so it had not been greased up or anything.
Yeah, it might have some of the stuff from the mold or something.
But do metal figures have much of a release agent on them? They do, possibly.
Yeah, they do.
But it was just
sometimes they do. Quite normally, it's not too bad, but sometimes they can have a little bit of something on, especially if they've been just stuck in a bag for a while. Because either it's some like the fine metal, like filings on it, or some of the release agent that can mess it up. But normally it's not too bad. But if you're not actually touching it, you're not cleaning it off.
No, but it's just completely odd that I had these 3 little 17-pounders sat next to my, painting desk for like a day and a half, and I'd keep picking them up, and the barrel would move away from the wheels, and you're like, that. But it's super glue, and I've left it for a day.
Did you order the comedy, the clown 17-pounders? They come with a clown car that automatically falls apart when you touch
exactly.
it.
And then you can move the turret around and aim them at other people, but
especially for fighting in built-up areas.
Yeah, but eventually they stuck, so they're all kind of good, and I've got 3 17-pounders now, so that's fine. I'm just trying to work out what to start painting next. Now that I've done some black stuff undercoating, and I've got some 10mm French Imperial Guard that might jump to the top of the queue, and then I've got a lot of shield transfers to stick on the hoplites, which is Adam's kind of world of quick win, potentially. So that might win as well, and get something based and painted up there, but no, that's been my week in rebasing, shopping, painting, and getting odd stuff through the post. And I guess whilst we're on the subject of odd stuff, it's probably time for a slightly earlier start than last week for our brand new feature. I'm sorry, I think you're an arse. Coming up next on Madaxeman Radio, it's I'm Sorry, I Think You're an Arse, the antidote to informed discussion shows. At the piano this week is Scott Joplin, and your chairman is Sir Humphrey Humphreyson. Hello and welcome everybody to this week's edition of I'm Sorry, I Think You're an Arse. You join us this week from the Citadel Paints Opera House in Dean's Bottom in Kent, known as the Garden of England for good reason. Visitors to the town can climb to the top of a nearby TV broadcasting mast, where they're greeted with a view covering 7 different counties. On a clear day, it is sometimes even possible to catch sight of Portsmouth off in the distance, despite the many prominent warning signs advising against this. I think we will hand over to our lead protagonist of the week, Mr. Andy Finkel, and apparently there's been something that's been bugging you for quite some time. Tell us all about it, Andy.
Yes, well, it's basically when you see black powder artillery in movies and TV shows, it's portrayed to me in a very silly way. Now, I appreciate it's not the focus of the whole story that the director is trying to show, but there are 3 things that bug me about the way it's typically portrayed. One is you've got guns wheel to wheel, whereas you would expect them to have about 14 meters between the guns if they're fully deployed. If you've ever been to somewhere like any American Civil War battlefields, you'll see the sheer amount of space that it takes to deploy a battery. So that's the first thing. The second one is that you never see them recoiling. You see clouds of smoke, bang, in the gun, and you never see the gun hurtling backwards and people back into position, which was one of the major parts of operating an artillery battery. And the third thing, which really bugs me, is that artillery on movies seems to fire exploding cannonballs. You see, the target guys are a bunch of infantry or whatever they are, and the cannonball lands in the middle, there's an explosion and people fall over, which is not how cannonballs typically worked. And it's just the whole thing together makes me feel, what a shame, what a waste. You put all this kit together and you're not showing it in anything like a realistic way.
And is it which one of those three is the biggest bugbear for you? Is it the exploding balls? Is it the
the exploding cannonballs?
The problem with having exploding cannonballs, apart from being quite painful, is they can't really show the actual effects that you'd have with a cannon in films with bits of limbs and stuff flying all over the place. They've got to have a little bit of artistic license, or otherwise it just wouldn't pass the rating. Because you can imagine an actual cannonball skipping along with limbs flying all over the place. It's not really going to be pleasant TV, is it? They dumb down a lot of the other bits, but it's there for show. It's TV, isn't it? You're trying to imply that.
Besides being really heavy job for the prosthetics department.
There's organisations now that where injured veterans do appear as movie extras through dint of missing limbs. It's a form of employment for.
Well, that's what happened the first time that was really used for effect. It was the beach scene where they come along, Saving Private Ryan,
yeah,
where they came storming on the beach, and everyone remembers that because it was so horrific, and they used veterans for it. Because, as the director put it, I didn't have to tell them how to act when they got shot and the leg blown off, because they'd already been there and done it, unfortunately. But everyone remembers that, and it was a key thing. So that's why in movies with black powder and everything else, they don't actually want to show that too much, especially the older ones. I'd agree with the artillery rolling back.
Sorry, Peter, doesn't that undermine your basic point, though, of saying this can't be shown because it's already been shown in a really successful movie?
Well, that was shown, but it's only ever shown in that one. Right. And since then, you can't really, a lot of the black powder ones aren't really aiming for that sort of level of realism. Otherwise, you'd never get any of it done, even for the level of trying to get enough people on the field to try and actually show them clashing and everything else.
You watch something like Vikings and it's got heads and things rolling. So, in TV these days, body bits falling off is more prevalent than it used to be.
But which black powder thing are you talking about that's a recent one? How many recent black powder things have you seen with them blowing up?
The BBC War and Peace one, for example.
That's BBC. They can't have limbs flying all over on the BBC. They'd go crazy on them.
It's all for syndication, though, isn't it? They do sell it over overseas and things like that. So, but that's different, though. If there's no black, are you saying there's not enough black powder films been made recently?
Yeah, there needs more of them. I certainly agree that we can have some limbs flying all over the place. But until then, it's only recently they started doing the proper explosions and that. What's there been a decent black powder one since Private Ryan?
Private Ryan was a long time ago. I remember thinking of trying to go to that when I lived in.
All right, so tell me 3 decent black powder films that have been done since then.
Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. How about that?
Pirates of the Caribbean 1, 2, 3, and 4.
That's a comedy.
Master and Commander.
And you had zombies wandering around, and they had limbs being blown off.
Exactly. I think you're digging yourself a hole here, Peter.
But they didn't have exploding cannonballs on it.
What, in Pirates of the Caribbean?
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure they did.
No, they had wood chips flying all over the place.
Oh, I think we might have to have a timeout and all go watch Pirates of the Caribbean, which might be a fate worse than death here then for that one. But Andy, does this really of a black powder movie, is this really enough of a significant problem that in the sweep of history and Dr. Zhivago and riding across the Russian plain and glamorous people swooning and people wearing overly tight trousers and things like that, is the artillery such a big issue that
I don't think it's ever kept me awake at night, but it's just, you watch it, you think, oh, there's a bit of realism.
Have you been watching Waterloo again?
Not for a long time, no.
What about Napoleon? Sorry, not even Napoleon. What about? There's always an American Civil War film. There must be something.
Waterloo's on Sony all the time. It's on a constant reboot. It's really good.
What about the American Civil War ones? Because the only ones I can remember exploding in the American Civil War ones were in Glory. They were the shells that do explode.
Yeah, well, but then you did have some exploding shells. That's fair enough. Obviously, but there's still a lot of it was still cannonballs.
So, Andy, does this spoil your enjoyment of these films?
Oh, realism, it's gone out the window. You think, what's the point in having all these historical experts and technical experts and stuff if they're going to show it like that? Because it was nothing like that.
I get really annoyed by all the bloody artillery in the Ridley Scott movies, in Gladiator at the start with all the Romans. Everybody's got a bloody catapult. Firing naphtha in things into the forest. And then in Kingdom, whatever that is, in
Kingdom of Heaven.
They're all got a fucking ballista or a fucking mangonel, and they're all having a go at each other, and they're all firing things which explode out of pottery. Now that really,
Dave, really though, the only reason why you're pissed off is you try it on the ADLG pitch, and you always lose with the artillery. That's the only reason why you're pissed off about that.
But then I thought, well, actually, do you know what? Let's have a think about this. In Gladiator, I looked at it, and each Roman maniple cohort had, I think, 2 scorpions or whatever. But it is not all that exploding in the forest stuff.
Well, that battle was really silly, wasn't it? They start off in trench, and then, right, let's all jump out of our trenches and charge them. And we'll get the cavalry charging through a wood as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, everyone, stop complaining.
We all know
stop complaining.
Automatically.
Stop complaining, because the thing is, Andy, I agree with you. Everything you say is correct, okay? You're absolutely true about cannonballs, about recoil, about naphtha and fire arrows. Filmmakers do not care about you, okay? You are not the target audience. The reason why you got naphtha exploding is because it looks cool. The reason why you got cannons lined up hub to hub is because if they were spread out, it would just ruin the shot, okay? And you've always got wargamers going, oh, I think you'll find. Director doesn't care. The audience doesn't care. Only you care, and you're not important enough for anybody to care about. So I agree with you, but I think you know what my answer to the question is going to be here.
Oh, thank you.
Nice to have one. This isn't the case with
Adam, you've really got to get off the fence on this.
But I think in defence of Andy, this isn't the case with Second World War films. We've talked about Private Ryan and Legs and Bodies, all the rest of it. Even Fury with the Sherman against the Tiger. Okay, the whizzing and jousting around the field was a little bit, possibly difficult and challenging. but surely, the great sweep of the story is about, in the Napoleonic era or the American Civil War, the rest of it, is not about the artillery and the cannon, and the dramatic spectacle of cannonballs bouncing along the ground and ripping people limb from limb in a historical fashion would still be pretty spectacular and would still get you that rating, because it worked for the shock value in Private Ryan.
And it would be brilliant, but what you've got to realise, as far as 98% of the population concerned, if you shoot a cannon, the thing explodes. And it would look unrealistic if it bounced and went. Cannonballs don't bounce, mate. They don't go through people's legs. They explode. Everybody knows that. And all right, it's not real. But again, same as last week, there are some things more real than mundane reality. For filmmakers, cannonballs exploding, and for the audience, cannonballs exploding are one of those things.
I still think there's a more entertaining way of doing it than still having it bounce along the thing and
that's why in Sharp they ended up using the rockets, because they go bang, a lot more fun. And they had the hand grenades. They go bang.
So was Sharp more historically accurate in at all?
The problem with Sharp is they only had 13 extras in the entire series.
And they kept swapping hats and uniforms. They get shot, then they go, you'd pan across, and it was themselves shooting themselves. It's like
it's like how the hell did the South Essex Regiment have bagpipers
and kills?
And there were only 10 of them.
The main problem with Sharp is how many times did Sean Bean die? Not a bloody at all. What's going on with that?
Yeah. Well, there are films in which he dies, I think. That really long one that was in 3 parts. Did he die?
Lord of the Rings. Yeah, he died in Lord of the Rings.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Maybe they're doing the artillery.
He died in Bond. Well, TV series. He died in Game of Thrones.
Everybody died in Game of Thrones, though, didn't they?
Yeah.
So that's not really a fair. That's not really a fair thing. So look, I think we're kind of we're slightly off topic now, but there's nothing wrong with that in its own sort of way. But I think it's probably a good time to do it. So Andy, your contention is that the thing that spoils every historical movie for you is the incorrect depiction of artillery, and whether that's mangonels with fire naphtha bombs shooting at the Romans in Gladiator, whether it's something in the BBC's War and Peace, whether it's something in an American Civil War thing starring 2 Americans we've not heard of returning after the war to do something and struggle with each other's identities, whatever that one's called, of which there's about 6, I believe. All of them are ruined by poor depictions of artillery.
Fair enough. Yep, I would say that.
That's the one. So look, I think this is the time to go around and say, is Andy correct? Is this a justifiable position or the alternative? So I'll start. Simon, what do you think?
Andy, I'm sorry, you're being an ass.
Dave, what about you?
If it's the Romans, it's an arse. If it's everybody else, I don't care a toss.
Okay, Tamsin, what about you?
I'm going to do an Adam answer from last week. Andy, you're correct, but you're being an arse.
But you're being an arse. Adam, what are you going to say?
Arse.
Arse. Peter?
Arse.
And myself, I think I will round it out with a near full set of Andy. I think you're being an arse. As the vegan brush soap of destiny hits the stiff bristles of time, that means we've run out of time on this week's episode of I'm Sorry, I Think You're an Arse. We'll be back next week with more I'm Sorry, I Think You're an Arse. So after another experimental version of I'm Sorry, I Think You're an Arse, I think it's fair to say, we will move swiftly on and consign that to the radio dustbin of we'll have another go next week, and go around the thing saying who has been playing any games this week. So Andy, you're always a pretty safe bet on this one. Is there a kind of 3-word summary to your weekly Dave Ray battering, beating game?
Vikings beat Alfred. He had we were doing Battle of Eddington. He had the Anglo-Saxons, who were mainly heavy spear. I had Vikings, most of whom were either Huscarls, heavily armored elite guys, or impetuous medium swords. All good, and we kind of, mulched his battle line, and he thought, "Well, sod this for a lark. Well done, you can have it." And this week we're doing Hastings. So
let's just quickly rewind this. So you're playing a game with 2 armies who know how each other one is put together. And your army is Vikings and his army is not Vikings. Yes. And he chose loads of spearmen.
Well, you didn't have much choice.
Oh, right. Okay. So did you draw lots for that, or did
yes, we take it in turns to choose. We take it in turns to choose the army, and it was my turn to choose. Yeah,
that must have been a tough one. He obviously, whoever set up the sequence by which you were going to take turns had obviously not managed to look at, or either had managed to look ahead or not managed to look ahead to that one and work out what was going to. Obviously going to come.
Don't you have to select an army on the correct date though?
Yes.
So you had Huscarls.
Yeah.
Alfred.
The Vikings.
Yeah, they didn't know. Just Huscarls was after the rise of the kings in Denmark and Norway. They wouldn't have had. Never mind.
Well, I didn't know that. There's nothing in the army list which says that they're date limited.
Fair enough. Well, yeah, no.
This week we're doing Hastings, and he's chosen to be the Normans.
Well, I suppose historically that works, isn't it? Although I did discover this week that in the Bayeux Tapestry there are some camels in the panel. That little panel above and below, which kind of suggests that. I suppose I was going to say it kind of suggests that there were some camels with William the Conqueror, but actually it kind of suggests that we should all suddenly run away and buy some camels for our Norman army baggage, because that would be then cool, and people would go, "Why have you got camels?" And we go, "Oh, didn't you know there's camels in the Bay of Tapestry?" And I'm being a smart wargamer.
Well, there were lots of Normans recalled from Sicily and the Middle East. So, I mean, William's army was a sort of threadbare of all the mercenaries from all over the Mediterranean that he recalled and put back into his army. So, I think that's entirely possible.
Do you think
I thought the Normans only got stuck into Italy and Sicily and stuff later on.
Bayeux Tapestry. I've looked through the whole of Bayeux Tapestry. I've never seen what's in it. Someone's pulling your leg.
Well, no, I'm not sure. Yeah, I've seen the photo. I think it is there. Maybe it's a Googleable thing. Camels in the Bayeux Tapestry.
I'll have a look.
Okay. So did you do any other games, Andy? Did you?
I played Simon. Simon will tell you about that one.
Okay. Well, let's move on and ask Simon then.
Okay, so Andy and I had a game of Renaissance. We tried to use the similar armies that Saunders and I had a game of. So we had the Spanish and the Dutch for another scrap. Sorry, to see how it would go. We did realise we may have had slightly illegal armies since certain prerequisites weren't purchased.
That would be unusual for you, Simon.
Well, no, in fairness to me, I was using Dave's army, which was the illegal army, but let's not get into that.
Right. So this time is you didn't.
Oh, that would be normal.
Yeah.
But send it to him to check because it's not my. I mean, it's not my idea.
Yeah,
you did an army list like the rest of us. It said minimum of one. You didn't have it. There you go.
Okay.
It was quite good. We got the big tercio blocks into pike and shot. Pike and shot then started charging things sideways, left, right, and centre, and it all got quite icky for a while. So it was quite a good game.
Okay. Yeah, but trying to stop those late tercios with a pike and shot armed with arquebus is a bit like trying to stop a Matilda tank with a spanner.
That's quite often how Matilda tanks stopped.
Yeah,
they defeated themselves.
Yeah,
they never made it to the battlefield.
They weren't super reliable. Okay, all right. So that's kind of coming along then.
Yeah.
Even if the army lists need not necessarily more work, but probably more reading by the sounds of it.
Yeah, there's a lot of QAing. I have to go back through all the 80 army lists that I've adapted from DVR and FOGAR because everything is based off the GBX series. So there's probably a whole bunch of mistakes I've got to go fix. But we've got the right feel. The Spanish come in with their big tercios going, look at me, I've got lots of money and all that. The Danes looked and went, this isn't going to go too well. Hold. Oh, we got into the flanks. So it was big scary thing comes around, but the pike and shot could start moving around, and when that could actually cause a gap in things, life got interesting. So
but you charge a tercio in the flank, and it doesn't care. It still fights as normal.
Yeah, but I think a couple of times when you charged it, I didn't drop, but you still got all your factors. So it's like charge in the flank, charge in the flank, and a couple other things. Still 4-0, better than kick in the head.
Still felt like hard work though.
Yeah.
Starts to work. So anybody else on the gaming front? Adam or Tamsin, have you managed to do any solo games or against the kids? Nothing there. Peter, what about your in-house opponents? Have they been available for gaming this week, or has it been computer
they
gaming?
have, but we did some computer gaming, some more Europa Universalis 4. So having a good battle of that with me playing as Ottoman and then playing as French and taking over most of Europe, which was most amusing.
Okay. And Dave, I seem to remember you playing a game this week at some point for a brief period of time. Yeah. Do you remember it? Did it last long enough?
100 Years War, didn't we?
Yeah, we used a couple of the 100 Years War Army lists from, I think I used one of Richard's lists from the podcast, and you used a different one entirely, which was your French foot knight list, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, you did the English 100 Years War, and I did the French 100 Years War. And rather than just have a massive amount of charging, impetuous knights, I thought I'd go for more of a foot knight combination. And Yeah, the terrain didn't fall very well for me. I think that was the biggest deal. And
Oh, that was true. That was very true.
and then you used a few of my tricks on me, which I found rather annoying.
I must admit, it was looking back, which we will do a kind of video talk through of it. We'll probably record that sometime this week and put it out. But it was probably the first time in as long as I can remember that I've actually put down an ambush marker that had an ambush in it. And I managed to sneak a couple of crossbowmen out on the flank of your army that I'm guessing, because I just normally just dish out ambush markers and don't put them. So I guess it's a reminder of that genuine psychological aspect to the game, of thinking that not only is it an ambush marker that might contain an ambush, there's my own personal history of just not actually doing that plays into whether it's going to work at all, which was kind of an interesting one.
I thought it was just a dummy. I should have. I did count up the number of bases and thought, because medieval armies to me quite small. I mean, I didn't sit there with the calculator and work out. Oh gosh, there's 10 points missing or whatever. But I should have been more predisposed to that. But I think I handled that. But it's the mounted against the foot knights which makes all the difference. The foot knights tend to go down to the mounted knights.
Yeah, and then I kind of shared with you that weird new rule. Well, not new rule, that weird rule that we've all missed probably for the last 6 years of ATLG, which was wherever it was. I think it's
page 58.
Page 58, the bottom of page 58. Final paragraph. So folks, so Furious Charge cancels armor in the first round.
Yep.
We all know. Absolutely. But Furious Charge cancels armor. You follow that literally, and you follow what it says at the bottom of page 58. It says, so if you've got Furious Charge and armor, and your opponent doesn't have Furious Charge and has armor or heavy armor, if they beat you, their armor doesn't count, because you still have Furious Charge ability. You know, you're not using it because you've lost the melee, but their armor does not apply in the first round of combat. That's literally what the rule says. So it's a very rare situation, but it means, for example, heavy cavalry charging armored heavy cavalry, which they are armored, charging armored heavy infantry. If the heavy infantry win by 1, the heavy cavalry can use armor, because the heavy infantry's armor is cancelled by Furious Charge, and the heavy cavalry count as more armored. And it's written there at the bottom of page 58.
Right. So everyone's armor's cancelled?
No. If you have Furious Charge, your opponents cannot use armor in the first round of the combat.
Yep.
And they cannot claim the armor ability. So
that's
normally, but normally that's like, I win with Furious Charge, your armor doesn't apply to turn that into a draw. That's the normal way we play it. But if my heavy cavalry charge in, and you, the heavy armored spearmen, win by 1, I go, ta-da, I have more armor than you. And you go, no, you don't, because we both got armor. And I go, no, I still have the Furious Charge ability, and your armor is cancelled in the first round. So in the first round, I have more armor than you.
So the question is,
has this been confirmed with El Creator?
Yes, it's if you read the last paragraph on page 58, it's absolutely clear.
My rumor is it's only been,
Oh, there's a lot of shouting going on here, but literally read the last 2 paragraphs, page 58. It's all there. It's absolutely clear.
It doesn't mean everyone's armor's cancelled, so nobody gets more armor.
The armor and heavy armor abilities do not apply during
the
first
one who
round of
doesn't
melee
have Furious Charge.
if the opponent has the Furious Charge ability.
It's even more not to bother with your legionaries being armoured.
That means that armoured cavalry can actually have a pop at armoured spearmen or even foot knights, because they're a little bit better in the first round than we thought.
So you're standing there with your pikes from earlier on in the podcast. I charge you, all leathered up, going nice and furious, going in. You win, but you don't count as having armor. So, if it was one difference, I've still got armor.
No, that doesn't matter because pikemen don't get armor and you don't get, and they don't get furious charge. But it's troops with furious charge. Their opponents cannot use armor or claim to don't have armor in the first round. Simple as that.
Well, that'll make a difference. That'll make a difference at Hastings if I've got armored spearmen, because it means if the knights clatter into me and I win,
absolutely,
we don't care.
Absolutely, his knights are slightly better in the first round against your armored spearmen. Not in subsequent rounds, but in the first round, they're slightly better than we thought, and it's written there clear as day on page 58. Quite amazing.
It's been put in there to help the heavy infantry impetuous against the Romans with armor, but the same...
Quite possibly.
I'd rather have not known this till next week.
Well, maybe this won't come out until Monday, Andy. So we could pretend that you didn't.
No,
hear it,
I would feel. I'd feel bad cheating. It's just something I don't like doing.
Yeah, no, that could be it. But then I suspect you'll have a hard job persuading your opponent that it's true. But it's written there plain as day on page 58. But so yeah, no, it was an interesting game though. Other than discovering the rule, it was actually using one of Richard's lists, which worked quite effectively. And I think Dave's army just had too many foot knights, and there was a bit of a bow motorway down the middle of the table, some rough terrain that all my infantry were able to take advantage of, and his struggled. So it did work surprisingly well as kind of getting your head around quite a small longbow heavy English 100 Years War army against the foot knights, and just being able to go into them and roll them up. So yeah, we'll get that one out on a video playthrough towards the possibly even by the time that this comes out or shortly after next week. So that's it. So brilliant. That's the combat section done. Well, look, we've moved on from that, which must mean we're at that stage of the evening in which it's time to return to the kitchen of skeleton bones, and it's Andy and your quiz. Andy, take it away.
Right. Well, last week the questions were about storming Normans because of the weather. And the first question was, which Norman leader's soothsayer was lost at sea during a storm, causing his master to say that if the soothsayer could not foresee the storm, he was obviously no great loss? Anyone apart from Tamsin know the answer?
William.
Yeah, William the Conqueror. Second one, which iconic name from their history did the Japanese give to the storm which scattered Kublai Khan's invasion fleet?
Kamikaze, the divine wind.
Yep, that's it.
All over that with my Japanese stuff. Yep.
Right. And the third one, in the year 255 BCE, a summer storm struck a Roman fleet, and over 600 ships, including more than 300 warships, were sunk with huge loss of life. What distinctive feature of the warships contributed to so many
ladder? It's the boarding spike.
Yeah, the corvus. That's right. Yeah.
It was called.
After that, they removed them.
It looked like a crow because it was basically smacked down and it was like it had a beak.
Big spike.
Yeah, it was a plank with a big spike on it, and it was held vertically on the fore part of the ship. And then when they were boarding an enemy ship, you'd release the ropes and it would spike onto the deck and hold it there. But it did make the ship a bit unstable in a heavy sea, and that proved a bit fatal in this storm.
Well, I think that allows us to put this week's or last week's questions on the spike and hit the music again. So Andy, you've given us the bird last time with the last of those answers. What topic have you got for us this week to hang all your questions together in a rudimentary sort of way?
The theme this week is it's an arse.
Ooh.
So
I see where you're going with that.
The first question is, in which war was French commander Baron Dieskau, Dieskau, captured after being shot in the nether regions?
Is that part of his body or part of the Low Countries?
No, that would... Well, as far as he was concerned, it was the Low Countries, but yes.
It's probably part of the Low Countries, yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, okay. Number 2, in the movie Battle of Britain, as he sees a massive force of Luftwaffe planes fly overhead, which German commander said, "If we lose now, we deserve to have our arses kicked out"?
Well, that's a well-known German saying, isn't it? Really, I think your whinge about artillery goes nothing about script writing, Americanized script writing there. But yeah, okay. Far away.
Number three. In what movie does an American soldier say that the only place to hit a tiger tank is in the ass?
Somebody's buzzing in the corner, but Dave, with your buzzer, you'll have to hold that buzzer until next week when we get the answers to Andy's quiz.
Question, comment les voir? Question, le trou est sans fond. Question, la légende le dit. Question, elle dit aussi. Question, c'est une maladie. Question.
So look, with the quiz receding into the buttock laden background, I imagine we're now into kind of the final stretch here of this week's lockdown podcast. In fact, we've even got easing of lockdown may start announced by next week, which will be quite remarkable. Or whether it'll actually stick or be true, that's an entirely different question. But look, let's do a quick round to say what else has happened, what's been bugging you this week, any other business and any shopping and anything planned for this week. So Mr. Saunders, what's on your agenda and what's in your whinge list?
A couple of points on what we've been discussing.
Okay.
The thing about the Normans having camels, I'm going to look that up because I find that truly peculiar that no one has looked at all 40 foot of the Bayeux tapestry and noticed there were camels in it before. I found that really spooky and weird. But
they're right next to the spaceship.
So, like, the Normans actually did round up all their knights from all over the Mediterranean. And my surname, Saunders, is a shortened form of Alexander Saunders. It was probably from one of the Norman knights from Constantinople or from Sicily coming back to take part in 1066. And on the subject of the Corvus and the fleet, apparently the Carthaginians put their ships together in kit form, numbered, and when the Romans captured their first Carthaginian trireme, they were able to take it apart in kit form and reproduce it and build their own fleet off the back of the Carthaginian airfix style kit form.
But did they have the Allen key? That's the question.
Yeah, because that's the Indian army back in the day.
Okay. All right. Well, that's an eclectic range of things. Is there anything you've got kind of planned for this week other than just carrying on with the
talk over of a terrible defeat for the French again?
Yes, that is true. That's something I am looking forward to already because it's a while since I actually won a game online, so I think I'll be having another go at that. So let's carry on.
In a while, I have to admit.
Yes, indeed. So Tamsin, let's carry on around the screen to you. So do you think you'll get on from? Are you buying a new house this week? Are you doing prepping or anything like that? What's going on?
Painting and prepping. There's one bit that before we started recording, we did discuss some books that have recently read that are inspiring. Sort of D-Day New Guinea, which is about the late campaign in New Guinea. A few weeks back, I finished reading this.
Infinite Sorrow, the Japanese and the Kododa track.
Infinite Sorrow, which is sort of the Japanese experience, particularly of the Kokoda Trail and the fighting at Igonabuna Sanananda.
I'm glad I'm not having to spell that when I look it into Amazon, but Kokoda Trail sounds a bit easier. Yep.
Monday, no lunch. Tuesday, no lunch. Wednesday, no lunch.
Okay. So it's been a bit of reading and from the history and a bit of prepping. So running along the middle then, Peter, your glued together hair helmet, other than getting towards your getting ready to start painting the hussars, what's on your week, or anything else been kind of in your wheelhouse this week?
Well, I've just, as we were talking, booked myself another day off, so I'm going to have a long weekend. So hopefully I can actually get some painting done, and maybe even a couple of games with Cost Center number 2, which I'm sure he'll soundly thrash me because they're off on holiday this week for half term. So I might actually get a bit of gaming done. Plus, he's got a couple of games that which keep getting aiming to get around to, some like the smaller skirmish games. So I might try out a couple of things just for a laugh, because it's not like we're going anywhere. So might as well play a few different things and get the old spray can out and do some basic colouring of stuff. But yeah, I just fancy just relaxing back, glass of wine, and do a bit of painting.
Any shopping that you think you're admitting to yourself that's going to happen?
No, because there's a couple of things I do want to get, but we were due to do a trip to the US, and that's not on the cards. And I was going to pick some Curacao stuff up, so that's on hold for the moment. The rest of the stuff I'm actually waiting for the trying to see what some of the ADLG 4 lists are, to see what's different on there, because I've got the Spanish, because I know the Spanish lot break out into different armies, Navarre and such like. That's the only one I know so far. But the other thing I was looking to get and sort out is Ancients, but I need to get my head around it.
Ancients, okay. Yeah, no, I guess so. There's probably more to do. Adam, what about you on your phone? Do you think the Dacians are done this week? Is there anything else?
Oh no, Dacians will probably still take another few weeks, to be honest. But just going back to the Bio Tapestry, 2 things on that. One is, as well as Camels, there's one piece of it where a gentleman has got his winkle out, which accorded me some hilarity for 2 reasons. Firstly, when I went to see the Bio Tapestry with my children, and they were quite young, they thought that was hilarious. But even funnier was the old American couple just ahead of us who were outraged. They were like, that shouldn't be allowed. They were genuinely outraged.
What makes me laugh is someone actually had to stitch it.
Yeah,
they're outraged by an embroidered winkle.
Yeah, bigger. Which they were outraged. It's like, hey, it's sort of like, mate, how old is it? And secondly, you're in France. You know what I mean? Yes. It's like, don't get outraged at a winkle in France, mate. They're not gonna. You
haven't been to Paris yet, yeah.
No, exactly. Yeah,
and the second thing about
apparently there are 93 penises in the Bio Tapestry.
Oh, I only noticed one, but maybe that was.
Is that something you just knew, Dave, or is that something you just Googled and now that your search history is going to be fucked?
The Bio Tapestry, the secrets of its 93 penises.
Yeah, is this a book you're, right. Is this a book
now
you're going to recommend?
Delete cookies.
Penises.
Delete cookies. Delete browsing history immediately.
Oh, way to go.
Can't find anything about camels.
Okay. Right, well,
I can imagine what's going to pop up in the search history after doing that one.
Oh my God, yeah, camels and 93 penises.
We'd like to recommend to you.
Yes, yeah. Don't try and buy anything on Amazon anytime soon. That could be quite problematic.
This means war.
Mr. Finkel, where do we go from? Please don't feel even obliged to bridge with any of the previous comments. Just tell us what you're up to for the next week or so. What else has been happening?
Well, there's more painting skeletons, but I've actually emailed Warfare Association of Reading about warfare, because apparently it's supposed to be happening, if you believe what's on Facebook and the internet. And I'm not sure whether I've got a ticket from last year. So I've emailed them to say, do I have a ticket for last year, or have I just bought a ticket for the 25mm competition in vain? And if so, can I have a refund? So
what you'll get, Andy, is just an answer that just says yes.
Well, that clears it up then.
Yeah.
And then you choose what that means.
Yeah, I suspect that one's still got some time to play until they actually sort out the fact that they forgot that other tickets have been rolled over before they put this year's tickets on sale.
Or
so
Well,
did they?
maybe
Who
that's why
knows?
there were so few tickets when we suddenly found out it was happening.
Possibly, but I'm pretty sure it was sold out last time. I think we're not going to be able to divine the level of complexity of what's gone wrong there, because there's just too many things. But maybe it'll be sorted out in a couple of months, because ultimately we're still not going anywhere before the summer, are we? Really on that front?
No, I can't see campaign happening.
Oh no, that's impossible. Absolutely impossible. I think it really is the back end of the summer before we're, even if we're lucky, September, to start putting stuff on table in more than just social situations. We might get down the pub, maybe, if we're lucky, to meet strangers. But speaking of strangers, Simon, what's your week? Any more clandestine? No, we don't have any clandestine meetings by car windows booked this week, do we?
No, not this week. We haven't done any value add ordering, so that'll be quite good. It's, limit to how many times you can do that before that something goes sus. I'm going to be busy finishing off the Ottoman Turks. I've got the last of the medium cavalry to paint up. And then I might have a break and finish. I found some more of my random large rats with big fangs for my rampant dragon army. So I'm going to do a couple of the big strange vehicles and all that, just for something completely silly.
Speaking of fancy armies, have you seen Pendraken do armoured bears? I'm not quite sure what army they'd be in, but I just quite like the idea.
Wouldn't they be in the armoured bear army?
Yeah.
All of them. If you've got armoured bears, they go in every army.
Yes,
just
that's
it.
The answer,
they're the new medium knights.
They're probably the Bayeux Tapestry.
Armoured bears.
Yeah, they're in the Bayeux Tapestry. That's absolutely it. You look in that side panel, they're in there as well.
Yeah, they ate the camels.
Yeah.
Is that armoured bear in the...
and the Winkles, Dave. And the Winkles.
Philip Pullman,
exactly. Yeah. Philip Pullman's got an armoured bear in it. He wears armour made out of meteorites. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic.
You can give him checked trousers like Rupert. That would be quite cool, wouldn't it?
If I could get
Pictish bears.
Not really the effect that you're looking for. Rupert the Bear charging in for attack just doesn't do it for me. You'd see someone turns up with a demonic fantasy army, and you've got Rupert the Bear up against them. It doesn't really cut it.
No.
What, Rupert the Bear armed with Winnie the Pooh? I can just see it now.
But you've also got Paddington Bear, who walks out with his little suitcase and opens up, and Cthulhu comes out. So
the suitcase of chaos.
Suitcase of Cthulhu.
With Winnie the Pooh with his honeypots attack.
Yeah.
He can do the artillery. Yeah, there you go. Exploding honeypots, Andy.
And they would count as exploding.
You can have special units of bear sarkers as well.
Dave, congratulations. The first one, other than Andy, for the last 3 months to earn a bit of tumbleweed there. Well done. Good for you. So, Simon, is that your wrap up then? Are you got anything else on the list?
On books, so just a bit of light reading to do with the Ottoman Turks. So I've got a book that should be arriving the next day or so. So a bit of light reading. The Crescent in the West, the invasion of Europe by the Ottoman Turkish Empire, 1250 to 1699. So that's going to keep me busy in the next little while, working out different things to learn about for the Ottomans, the Poles, the Austrian armies, or all the periods that I like.
Yeah, reading about the Ottomans is quite something. I think it makes that John Julian John Julian, whatever it is. What's the one? John Julian
Norwich.
That's the word. Norwich. John Julian Norwich book on the whole history of Byzantium in 400 pages looked like it's a bit slow paced when you start getting into what the Ottoman sultans were up to and what was going on over there. So that's a weird one. Okay, well, I think for myself, it's really going to be a discussion. Do I do 10 mil Napoleonic Guard? I've not done any of those for a while. Do I dive in and try and finish off all these German tanks and the 2-3 tone camo scheme, which is quicker than I know it is when I get doing it, and then I could box all my 10 mil stuff and put them away as a kind of finished new set, or do I look at some of the other things that I've undercoated? I think there's a few days of rain coming up, so my white undercoating is probably not not going to get done until next weekend, but my black undercoating's done, and it's always kind of easy to get some Swiss and other people once you've done black undercoating to rush through some of them if they've got some dry brushed armor. So I might do that. But I think but the big thing that I've really got to get my head around is the fact that I'm pretty convinced that I've just accidentally bought some slippers, which is kind of a real psychologically difficult point for me to admit, and I'm feeling quite good about coming out with this. But so I spent, using all those sort of internet, eBay, Amazon skills that we've got, about 3 weeks trying to buy something that basically was slippers but wasn't called slippers online, because buying slippers just seems like a huge admission of age and guilt and just giving up on life, really. Yeah, you're all nodding. That's it. And I did manage to find some that didn't say the word slippers, and I could sort of pretend that they were something else, and on Amazon, and they arrived just earlier on this afternoon. And you always see when you buy stuff on Amazon that's got thousands of positive reviews that what you get is not quite what it is, because something's been on Amazon for 8 years and they've just basically changed the product entirely. So the thing that I bought that was supposed to look a little bit kind of like a sort of pair of canvas plimsolls from someone quite cool, has kind of got tartan check lining, and I'm kind of going, that's slippers really, isn't it? That's just got slippers all over it. And I'm feeling good about it because they're warm, they're comfy. I don't have to tie the shoelaces, and I am going to be in the house for the next 3 months as well. So just I'm out there.
There's a much easier way to buy slippers. What you say to your wife, I quite like these, and you find something outrageous, and she says, no, I'll find you a pair, and she'll then do all the legwork and buy you something proper.
No, I wasn't prepared to do that, because my wife is still downstairs laughing hilariously about the fact I've accidentally bought some slippers. And I've just got to spend the next 2 weeks.
The fact that you were searching is already the downhill bit.
I was searching to not buy slippers, though. That was the issue.
Yeah.
It's when you buy cardigans, that's when you've got to start worrying.
So I'm guessing, like Dave, what's coming up on your Amazon searches in future? Yet more slippers and maybe pipes.
No.
Pipes, yeah. Maybe a dressing gown.
Smoking jacket and that sort of hat which comes down over.
A beret. We're back to last week. It's a beret. Yes, I need a red beret. That's the secret.
It's very, very important. What you've just said is given us an insight into how your mind works. Don't ever do that again, please.
No. Yeah. Okay. Right.
It was disturbed.
That's probably the point at which we should end this week's podcast, then, isn't it? Definitely. So, look, thank you all again for chipping in from your various COVID cells in whichever £1,700 a week hotel you're in. And goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.
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 But it's just a general observation. I mean, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. And
Andy, sorry, can I interrupt you there? The whole point is you're supposed to pretend that this is the worst thing in your entire life, and you're supposed to argue irrationally in favour of this. So if you're saying I'm not that fussed about this, he's going to sort of break this feature.
I think I kind of win on that one.
Can you ham it up a bit, mate? Bring Ruth in. I'm sure she could have a strong opinion about this.
Oh yeah, well, Ruth's got strong opinions about various things, but
exactly.
studying cannibals isn't one of them. Yeah.
So let's restart, and you argue irrationally in favour of your position. This is the whole point of this comedy feature.
I imagine it's an argument with my wife that I can use irrationally. Yeah, right.
Exactly.
This means war.
It does a bit. I mean,
not a bit, for Christ's sake. Enormous. Yes, utterly. Oh my God.
Well, you look at it. Well, you look at it and you think.
Yeah, piece of
Belly
blue
lint
tack,
in the-
shove it in, and pull it out, and you'll pull out a lot of sort of belly lint,